Hey guys, we're going to give it a few minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, what's going on, Snifted? What's going on, Squid? Good to see you guys win. Awesome. A lot of regulars in here. What's going on, Afro Samurai Kimberly? Good to see y'all in here as well. Happy Super Bowl day for anyone that watches the Super Bowl today. Curious who you guys are going for. What team? I believe it's the Seahawks and the Patriots. I'll have to double check, but I know a lot of people at their house watching that later today. What's going on, Mista? Good to see you here. Win says it's 2 a.m. in morning, my time. Wow, 2 a.m. over there, late night. Burn the midnight oil over there, I see. Well, appreciate you joining. It means a lot. Sense Trade, no, this is CryptoData. This is not Luke Sense Trade. So yeah, we may sound similar, but this is CryptoData. I can actually share my screen or share the profile so people know who I am. Yeah, this is who is speaking right now. This is who is speaking right now. But give it another 30 seconds, let everyone else get in here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So I know a lot has been going on in the market, and so the big thing is just learning how to navigate it. Should we bet right now? Is this the bottom? Do we have more room to go down? What's going to happen? So we'll talk about all that as well. What's going on, Eswar? Good to see you here. Josh, what's going on? Finamzent, good to see you here as well. A lot of regulars in here, guys. Awesome. Win says, later at the end, can you guide me on how to join the premium Discord? Yeah, absolutely. And even right now, Win, if you wanted to join the Gym Hunters premium Discord, it's literally in the description of the video. So if you're in this live stream, you go to the description and you'll see the link. I believe the link to join the premium Discord is the first one. But just double check and it should be there. And you'll be able to apply and then join afterwards. So it's 1 Ethereum for a yearly subscription. So right now the price is obviously very good considering Ethereum was double this not even 6 months ago. And so, yeah, good on a relative price basis. Snifted says, CD, what do you think is going to be the bottom? You know, I think 58 to 60K was pretty close. I think there's a chance we go one more level lower. And we'll talk about the targets as well that you should keep in mind. So Sense Trade said, your voice is so similar to Luke. Yeah. We've hung out quite a lot last year and the year before. And so, yeah, I've kind of developed his mannerisms a little bit, his talking style, his speech, etc. So it's pretty cool to see the similarities there. Win says, I signed everything and it just lead to the free one again over time. I would say send an email if possible. I believe you could send an email. There may be a support email as well for Gym Hunters. And so send an email if not. And if you're still having issues, then let me know. Send me a DM on X at the CryptoData. You can send me a DM here, and then I'll see if I can contact the team. What's going on, Josh? Josh said he's going for Seattle. Nice. Samuel, what's going on? All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So past 24 hours of liquidations, 232 million. Longs being 79 million of that. Shorts being 153 million of that. So shorts being the ones to get squeezed a little bit this time around after that bounce. And like I said, I'll talk about exactly what levels I'm looking at, and especially for a confirmation to the upside. Now, when we look at Bitcoin here, so it's doing very well, right? It's curving to the upside. It's bounced nicely off of 70K. We do have some liquidity lower, and then 72K looks to be the next target here. So I would expect potentially a tag of 72K before a reversal. I know that this is a lot of resistance up here, so we'll talk about that as well and where I'm expecting us to go after that. Now, looking at the news items. So whenever Bitcoin is crashing here, February 5th, a lot of people were losing their minds. And it was a big deal, right? And the reason why it was such a big deal was because it seemed to come out of nowhere in a sense, in that we just kept cascading down. I mean, there was liquidations after liquidations. And a couple of reasons for this big drop that we had was obviously macro uncertainty. So you had the government shutdown, and it just and during this time, I believe the government was still shut down or it just reopened. But there was still uncertainty regarding another government shutdown February 14th, or February, I should say 13th, because We had the DHS spending bill that's coming up for another vote February 13th. Basically, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, when they reopened the government and the spending bill, they put, okay, only 2 weeks for DHS, and then they'll potentially have negotiations again, February 13th. And so that's another day people are thinking that the government may shut down again. And if you look here on Polymarket, another U.S. government shutdown by February 14th, this is a 48% chance. Now, this isn't crazy amount of volume. It's only 88,400. So it's not like there's, a lot of insiders here. But nonetheless, this is just another event to look out for. Now, besides that, we also had Kevin Warsh, who Trump nominated as the next Fed chair. And let's see if I can find that a little bit lower here. But Trump nominated Kevin Warsh to be the next Fed chair, and right here. And a lot of people see Kevin Warsh as hawkish, meaning he will cut rates, but he's not as apt to start quantitative easing, i.e. inject liquidity into the market. And QE is historically what started alt season. And so if Kevin Warsh doesn't want to do that, well, that's going to create a little turmoil, obviously. I mean, it's probably good for the economy that he doesn't want to do that, just inject money out of nowhere or print money out of thin air. But at the same time, if you're looking at it from a market performance perspective, then it's going to be a little bearish per se. And so now people are thinking, well, is this guy really as bullish as Trump is making him out to be? We'll have to see, right? But that's also another uncertain item. Now, in addition to that, there's also a few other things with Trump and Iran. Okay, so the whole Trump and Iran situation, or U.S. and Iran, I should say, has been a big deal. And one of the big reasons for that is because there's been talks of Trump potentially striking Iran, right? And that was going on all through January. And then finally, people thought that it was over, but then there's escalations rising again. And now what's going on is Trump is actually talking with Iran. They talked Friday, and then they have another meeting, I believe Tuesday or Wednesday in Oman to discuss negotiations. And Trump he's fairly confident that they will come to an agreement, but that was just another uncertain item, right? So you had war tensions, you had Trump's Trump's Fed chair pick, you had the government shutdown, uncertainty. And then on top of that, when you had, historically we're in a bear market right now until October. If we're looking at 3 years of a bull, 1 year of a bear, then in that case, it's just price is moving as normal, right? And then there's a lot of FUD as well with the whole Epstein files. And so when you had the Epstein files coming out, and a lot of them were being released, one of the emails showed Epstein either emailing Satoshi, I believe, in 2011. So then you had people freaking out that Epstein may be Satoshi and all this stuff. And obviously, it was just cascading amount of liquidations, and people were over leveraged. And so then you just had everything dumping. Okay, so that's what contributed to the huge drop that we saw. I mean, that's really what contributed is just all of that, and really just people unwinding their positions. And a couple of institutions were over leveraged, and then they got blown out. Okay. And so I know it wasn't fun for anyone. I mean, we had billions and billions of dollars of liquidations. I mean, there was capitulation more so than I've seen in a long time. The fear and greed index got to 5, which is the lowest it's gotten. And people were calling for targets in 40K, 30K, right? And that's really when you want to look for the bottom. When people start really coming with these outrageous targets lower, that's when you say, okay, let's actually take a step back. This could be the bottom here. Now, also, something else that's interesting, and then I'll get to some of you guys' comments afterwards, is Jim Cramer saying, I heard at 60K he's going to fill the Bitcoin reserve. And Jim Cramer says he was told President Trump is buying Bitcoin for the U.S. Strategic Reserve during the crash this week. And so if that's the case, I mean, and here, let's go ahead and let me bring this on real quick.
Do you think that the president is going to fill the Bitcoin reserve?
I don't know. That will
Well, that's
be
what I
a
heard at
big
60.
deal.
I heard at 60 he's going to fill the Bitcoin reserve. You better cover.
So I don't know if Jim Cramer is just blowing smoke or if he actually heard that. But nonetheless, I mean, that's something interesting because we'd have a strong bounce off of that. And 60K also coincided with the 200 weekly SMA and some other big important levels. So we'll talk about those as well. Now let's go ahead and look at some of the comments here. Let's see. Okay, Snifted says, I also thought 60K is the bottom, but we went there so fast. Now I feel like 50K is very possible. Snifted, and that's actually a very good point. Okay, when you mentioned that potentially 50K may be lower. And yeah, the fact that we reached 60K so quickly was very surprising, even to myself. And because I was expecting that to happen maybe in May, April at the earliest, but I did not expect beginning of February. And so when that's the case, well, now you're thinking, okay, maybe we're going a lot lower, maybe 40K, maybe 30K. And we'll cover some TA levels as well, because in 2022, we did reach the 200 weekly SMA, but we went 30% lower. So we'll cover some targets after that. Let's see. And then Adam Muslu says, bro, we finally are in a bear market, but no one is accepting this. Yeah, exactly, right? Win says, because of your analysis from the previous live, I made my first 1,000% short on both BTC and ETH, BTC TP at 60K and ETH at 1749. I really appreciate you and love your analysis. Wow, Win. That's amazing. That makes me feel great. Glad you made some profit off of that, especially off my last live. That makes me feel very, very good. At the end of the day, guys, it's all about levels, right? And just playing those major levels. Like, if your level's getting validated, okay, go to the next one. And literally, eventually, you will be right. Sense Trade, what's going to happen if the shutdown news gets accepted? So if the government shuts down again, if they can't come to an agreement with the DHS spending bill, well, that's obviously going to cost some FUD, right? That could bring us below 60K. I could definitely see it bringing us below 60K. And then at that point, we could discuss, okay, what levels are we going to after that? And there's a 618 fib level at 57K. And then the 6.5 is at 55. So 55 to 57K could be a big level to bid. And then also we have a few other measured moves to 45K or even 30K. Like 30K would be the all-time bottom. And so that's another level I'm watching, but we'll go over that in a minute. Hey, what's going on, Darian? Hope you're doing good as well. Eswar says, they CD, by the way, it's my birthday today, and I've just turned 22 and still watching your stream at 12:13 a.m. Also, I would like to listen to some advice from you on this special day for me. Eswar, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Wow, 22. Awesome. Awesome. Birthdays are always fun. They're always fun. It's something how fast the years pass by. And that's awesome you're watching me on your birthday. So it means a lot. Some advice for your birthday. I would say take as much risk as you can. Do what you want while you're young, because time flies and you may not have that time. So spend time with your loved ones as much as you can, your family. And then also, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to try out some new business ventures, or, really just commit to something, because when you're young is the time when you should be taking risks. And there's so much opportunity in the market that you don't want to regret what you didn't try. And so take advantage of AI, these AI agents, all this new tech that's being developed, because you can go so far and you can become a millionaire. If you aren't already, you can become a millionaire over the next few years if you leverage this tech correctly. And if you identify a need in the market, you take advantage of it, or if you just discipline yourself, right? Whatever it is, if you're going to college, if you're getting a new job, whatever it is, just stay committed and literally drown out the distractions of social media and of all the negative influences in your life. Surround yourself with the 5 people that are doing what you want to do, people that are smarter than you, because they're going to bring you up, versus, say, your friends who are always bringing you down, right? Like, surround yourself with people who are doing better than you so you can elevate yourself. Because like I said, at 22, you got all the energy in the world. You have all the opportunity in the world. And so take advantage of it. Start setting your goals, start being organized, and really just go after it, because there's nothing you can't do. So again, happy birthday. 22 is an awesome age, and you still have so much opportunity left. See, Adam Muslu says, always will be liquidity the reason. Yeah, exactly. There's always liquidity to the upside and downside. Kimberly says, you really think we go as low as 30K? That's wild. Kimberly, I hope we don't go to 30K. I really don't. But when we measure from 2022 and the percentage down we went from the highs to the lows down to 16K, if we take that same measurement from the highs to the lows for 2026, well, that's going to be around 30K. And so that's the all-time bottom target. I don't think we'll go there. I think potentially 40K is going to be the lowest, but still I would be open to a lower target. Okay. And I think, could it be denial? Could we be actually bouncing? Now we're going to go to all-time highs? Yes, we could. But I'm playing everything level by level. I'm not saying we're going to go to 100K today. I'm not saying we're going to go to 40K tomorrow. It's just literally playing it level by level. Let's see. Don't Imagine says, who's talking in the live stream? This CryptoData. So this is my X account at the CryptoData, for anyone who's wondering who is talking right now. So I am a gym hunter for Luke's Gym Hunter group. Let's see, Win says, can I have live stream schedule of you? Yeah, Win. So currently I do Sunday live streams at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time in the paid group. And then sometimes I'll do them in the free group afterwards. Usually I'll do them in the free group afterwards. But I believe starting February 15th, I won't be doing them in the free group anymore. So if you guys have not joined the Gym Hunters Premium group, definitely do that. And again, links in the description for that. And then also follow me on X to stay up to date with all my latest stuff as well. Tiptoper says, were we even in a bull market? You know, we were because we went from 16K all the way up to 125K over 2 years. So I would say that was a pretty good bull market. And again, we'll talk about that as well. So Donata, nice to meet you as well. Kimberly says altcoins will be diminished if we get to 30K. Absolutely. Yeah. Altcoins, guys, altcoins are absolutely wrecked right now. And they'll continue to be wrecked over the next few months, especially. And that's where it's imperative that you guys focus on altcoins that are outperforming, that have an actual use case, like Hyperliquid, revenue generating. They buy their token with the fees they get from liquidations, and that's why it's done so well during drops. And so that's what you have to focus on is outperformers, because most altcoins are going to zero. I mean, because they're all vaporware, right? And you gotta think of things realistically. If there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of altcoins to choose from, they can't all go up, right? There has to be concentrated liquidity somewhere. Like we've gotten to a point in the market where there are so many coins to invest in that any pump that happens with any token is just getting sold off into immediately. Like narratives are lasting maybe a day, maybe a couple days before they get sold off into. Even the biggest meme coin that's being retweeted by the White House, by other big famous people, like Penguin, that thing pumped and then it dumped, right? Like there's these narratives that are shifting so quickly, and so don't get married to any altcoin. I mean, maybe Hyperliquid, maybe a few others are the exception to the rule, but they're not the rule. Okay, so make sure that you are still taking profits along the way, that you do have a strategy in place, because guys, like this can easily go south, and your altcoin can easily underperform. And so, yeah, just be careful investing in any alts, I would say. Snifted, yeah, I believe so. I'll double check, but yeah, I believe so, to get more people in the premium group. And so, yeah, like I said, always, I mean, follow me on X if you aren't. I'm going to have a lot of stuff on there, right? And so just make sure that you guys are staying up to date with that. And then let's go. I'll leave it on Donata's question, and then we'll go over a couple other things, and I'll go back to the questions afterwards. But looking at the S&P here for the TradFi space, 6932. So we have, what do we have, about 5.5 hours left till the weekly close. I believe, what is it, 6 hours? The weekly close at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Someone double check that for me if you could. I believe we have 6 hours left till the weekly close. But nonetheless, S&P is at 6932, potentially going to close above the weekly at 6886, which would be bullish for the S&P, but I mean, still, I'm expecting continued downside. I mean, because the S&P has been making these higher highs, but RSIs are making lower highs, signaling, weakening demand. So it's only a matter of time before the S&P just rolls over, right? Like it's only a matter of time before this happens. It may not happen next week or the week after, but it is going to happen because the S&P is just so exhausted, guys, to the upside. Like RSI is making lower lows, bearish divergence, while price is making higher lows or higher highs. Yeah. RSI is making lower highs while price is making higher highs. That's what I meant to say. And so weakening demand while price is making higher, eventually you do have that rollover. So just be careful, right? Where's the S&P going to go? Potentially 62.25 would be my target. Now, where's gold going? So gold is that hedge against uncertainty, hedge against inflation. So gold right now looking like it wants to close below $5,000 on the weekly, which is somewhat bearish for gold. I mean, the RSI is curving to the upside on the weekly above its signal line, but it is overbought. And if people are getting more confident in the market, then they're not going to hold as much gold. And this was a lot of artificial demand, this crazy run that we had with gold. And so I do think that the demand is cooling off a little bit. I think gold still has a chance to rise further, but like I said, we're going to need to close the weekly above this $5,000 level. Otherwise, we could repeat and retest 45.50. Now, looking at oil, so oil is in this downtrend here. I have heard that oil should outperform over the next year or two. And so maybe diversifying oil may not be, the worst choice. I think it'd be good for, as far as, again, diversifying your portfolio. If you can get oil near $61 to $62, that would be a very, very good level to buy. But I do think oil eventually will start outperforming. I've been talking with a few people about that are fairly confident in it outperforming. So, and then finally looking at the DXY here. So it's at 97.68, the strength of the dollar. So Trump has historically said that the dollar is strong. And one thing to keep in mind is the DXY does have an inverse correlation with the S&P and crypto. So if the DXY rises, usually the S&P and crypto ends up falling. And so that inverse correlation, if it closes above the weekly at 97.50, then it could cause some more upward price, at least for the short term, and then end up causing some downward pressure for S&P and crypto in the short term as well. So that's something I'm watching. The RSI still has a lot of room to run. And so guys, just keep that in mind, as there could be potentially some bleeding in the market over the next few days. All right, let's see what other ones we have. So Donata Imagine says, what kind of coins should we be investing in at the moment? Yeah, coins that have real world use case, right? I mean, Hyperliquid isn't a bad one. We'll go over a couple actually. Let's go ahead and refresh the page here. So Bitcoin's at 71.1K, up 2.8%. Ethereum's up 0.9% to 2108. Solana's up down 0.7% to 87.90. And the outperformers, Aster surprisingly is outperforming, up 15% to 62 cents. Caspa's up 7.4%. Leo's up 6.2%. And then we have a few others not doing too bad. But you can see here, Hyperliquid is trending up 1.3% to 32.50. Not doing too bad. Dusk, a privacy token, up 54% today to 13 cents. So Dusk's been doing fairly well. Now you asked, what token should you invest in? Well, I mean, Hyperliquid has proven itself time and time again, right? That's something to watch. Also, Sky is an interesting one. I would do some research on Sky. I know a few people, a few good traders I know are looking at Sky as a potential investment. And then besides that, I mean, Aster's very risky. Aster's very risky. Like, I would still need to do some more research on this. But yeah, it's very, very risky. And so besides that, let me look at some of the top tokens here. Potentially Canton. So I know Canton is backed by, I want to say the NASDAQ. I mean, some big people in TradFi. And Canton has actually been performing fairly well. I mean, if you look at the chart here, it's been up only really for the past, if you look at the past 3 months, its performance is fairly good. Even the past 1 month of data. I mean, it's up from 12.6 cents to 16.8 over the past month. You look at any other token, heck, look at even Solana over the past month. I mean, Solana over the past month is not up. I mean, look at that. Most tokens look like this, whereas Canton, it actually looks fairly bullish. And so that's why I say Canton, Hyperliquid, and then trying to see which other ones have been performing fairly well. It's crazy how far a lot of these tokens have dropped. Like, I just keep looking at them and prices are so much lower than even a few weeks ago. Yeah, I think right now I'd only feel comfortable investing in Canton and Hyperliquid. And obviously, if you want to put some DCA orders down for Solana, like around $70, Ethereum down between $17.30 to $15.30, Bitcoin down potentially to $55K to $45K. But yeah, that's what I would say for that. Laukta says, why not just short everything? So, and we'll talk about that, but shorting everything right now when everyone's bearish is very, very risky. Okay, especially when the indicators are very oversold already. Mean reversion usually takes hold where you end up tokens having a large bounce, which like we had at 60K. And so shorting becomes, again, still fairly risky. Yes, you could short as tokens approach resistance like they are right now. And then your invalidation could be, say, a daily close or a 4-hour close above those levels. And so, yeah, you could short, but just shorting whenever indicators are very oversold is almost counterintuitive because you usually want to short when they're at least overbought or, middle near 50 whenever they're breaking that bullish market structure, like breaking trendline support or breaking weekly support, etc. That's really when you can take the short trades and be a little more confident. A lot of good questions, guys. A lot of good questions. Tiptoper, what altcoins would you hold for the long term? Render tout? Yeah. So just right now, what was the token I said? Canton and Hyperliquid, probably long term stuff. Do you expect any big moves in the upcoming weeks or months? Yeah, definitely. I mean, there'll be some big moves. Like we're going to consolidate a lot, but we're going to be bouncing a lot, bearish and bullish. I noticed KTA has been holding strong the past week. It's very interesting, right? Curious what catalysts they have. Are these stocks or crypto? These are crypto. So this US dollar coin is an altcoin. Oh, so yeah. So these are stocks. So when I was going over in the TradFi space here, these are stocks. And so S&P 500 is the ETF tracking the top 500 companies. Gold is obviously a commodity. Oil futures is another commodity. And then you have the dollar, which is the DXY measuring the strength of the dollar. And so, yeah, this is the TradFi space. So this is why I was covering that earlier, just to get an idea of the TradFi space and the crypto space. The dollar is not an altcoin. The dollar has, it's a DXY is like measuring the dollar. So it's its own, basically it measures the value of the dollar versus other currencies. Lahel says, would make sense just shorting it as if everything is bleeding. Yeah, no, it wouldn't make sense. Like you have to have some type, you can have a swing short from higher, but to be shorting right now, I would say you could short right now that we're approaching resistance after the bounce, but not like as everything's declining, just short, because eventually you do have that mean reversion and it becomes riskier. Thomas says, hey, I'm new to crypto and wanted to trade my first $300. What are some tips you could give me? In which platform should I start trading? So first of all, welcome to crypto, and you have joined at arguably the hardest time, but there's still opportunity for you if you manage your risk appropriately. So with $300, it's going to determine what's your goal, right? Is to turn it to $600 to $900 to $10,000, $20,000. I'll say this. It's getting exceedingly harder to multiply wealth in crypto. And I'm just saying that as a realist because of the dilution of capital, because of thousands of coins being created per day, because of so many different narratives, because of government control now, because of the volatility, et cetera, right? It's getting much harder. So if you have $300, how do you get involved in crypto? Well, diversify is one thing. So diversify across various types of trades. So like leverage trading, for example, maybe invest $100 into leverage trading. But I mean, before anything, guys, you need to learn technical analysis, and that learns drawing support and resistance levels. That means learning how to draw trend lines. That means how to use the basic indicators like the RSI and the stochastic RSI, how to use the EMAs like the 50 EMA, the 200 EMA, how to use SMAs, how to research, right? Who to follow. That's another thing as well. Let me give you guys a list of who to follow. So obviously myself, CryptoData here. You can follow me. Benjamin Cohen is another great person to follow. This guy is one of the best macro analysts I know. Follow him. And then who else do we have that's really, really good? Virtual Bacon. He's fairly good. I know he has a good take on the market. Not as good as Benjamin Cohen, but he's fairly good. And then trying to think who else. There's a few good people that I've followed recently. Let me actually see real quick. Let me see my following. So there's a few people I need to let's see. Yeah, there's some I'll need to look at as well, who to follow. But also a few others. Donnie has a few others too. So yeah, so there's some people to follow who are very, very good. And so I would definitely, again, at least follow those three guys, and that's going to help you as far as what to look for in the market, right? And also, Watch Your Guru is a standard one that if you're wondering what's going on in the market, I mean, this one is a good one to follow news. And then also a really good person that gets news quicker than most is TradFi News as well. So last two are news people, and then myself and two others are macro people. So that's going to at least help you with what's going on in the market. So hopefully that helps, guys. But with that said, let's go over some more of the market and then we'll answer some more questions. So the fear and greed index is at 8. Before that, it was at 5 when we had the big drop. Now, guys, it has not been as low as 5 in a long time. As low as, I think 2022, I don't even know if we got that low. But that just shows you the sentiment is in the gutter, okay? And what you have to realize is when everyone is scared and everyone's making these outrageous targets for much lower, when Bitcoin is at 60K, they were saying 50K, 40K, 30K, that's really when you want to start looking at potentially buying. Because at that point, you're saying, okay, well, sentiment's horrible. Everyone's calling for lower. This is true capitulation. And at that point, that's what marks the bottom. Okay. Now, usually we don't just V-shape recovery out of it. Usually we'll kind of consolidate, maybe have one more drop, form a bullish divergence, and then go higher. But nonetheless, sentiment was horrible that day. Everyone kept calling for lower. And so you guys have to realize that counter sentiment trading can be good to a point. Obviously, trying to counter sentiment trade from 125K would have got you wrecked. But if you can do it in a way where you're managing risk and you're more or less scalping versus trying to swing trade the bottom, right? Then you can still make a lot of money. And so this was one of the indicators I was looking at whenever sentiment was in the gutter. Whenever you're going down 60K, I was like, wow, extreme fear, 5. And we were at 5. I'll show you right here. Okay. Right here, 6 p.m., February 5th. We're at 5. And this was the lowest I ever saw it. And so that's what you have to look for. Well, everyone's bearish now. Eventually we are going to bounce. So that was a little alpha for you guys there. Now, looking at ETF flows. So Ethereum had negative 21 million of outflows on Friday during the bounce, while Bitcoin actually had 330 million of inflows. So institutions are more confident on Bitcoin than they are Ethereum. And that's a little concerning if you're an Ethereum investor. I think a lot of drama with Vitalik selling his Ethereum and him, bad-mouthing L2s, saying they don't need them. And so it's just a lot of drama around the Ethereum network right now. But nonetheless, Ethereum had a good bounce with Bitcoin, but it hasn't really garnered that institutional adoption as much as Bitcoin just yet. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Now let's go ahead and look at the market. Okay. And then I'll answer the rest of the questions. So Bitcoin is approaching its resistance of 71.5K. Now, you may be asking, okay, what are these X symbols? Well, this is one of my custom indicators I created. And long story short, it just measures extremes, meaning it has 10 plus different indicators in it. When they're all oversold, boom, we flash this signal. Okay? We flash this bottoming signal. It's been fairly accurate in the past, as you can see. So that's just, again, showing you that sentiment was in the gutter. Indicators were very exhausted to the downside, and then we eventually bounced. So now, are we going to continue higher from here? Well, that's the question, right? Can we close the daily above 72K? Why do I have this range here? Well, if you look in the past, this has been a very important range, very significant. If you go to the weekly chart, same thing, guys. So you can see this top here, April 1st of 2024, was resistance. Okay, so now could it act as support? Could the weekly close above it? That would be very, very bullish if the weekly can close above it. So double check that, right? Double check we may end up closing above it. So watching that very, very closely. If not, it continues to act as resistance, and then we'll go much lower. But when we had the drop, this 200 weekly SMA was a very important level. 58K was where it was at. We bounced off 59.9K. So that is a very, very important level to watch. And so that's what I would say is just, right now we're at 60.2K, or we bounced off 60.2. And so we're actually above the 200 weekly EMA as well, which is another important level to watch. And we've bounced off of that in the past. And so that's why Bitcoin is bouncing where it is. Again, it's all levels, guys, level by level. The next big level I have is 55K. Okay, 55K up to 58. Now also, what does this coincide with? Well, if we pull up the Bitstamp chart to have a little bit more history, let me take some of this off. So, for example, and let's talk about some targets here. So I'll do some things real quick. Let me just go ahead and remove all drawings. Okay. So, and let's go ahead and remove some of these indicators. And I'll remove mine so you guys can see the charts. Oh, gotcha. Can't see Chazza. Okay, so with that said, okay, so let's talk a little bit about this 200 weekly SMA. So right now, whenever we entered the bear market from 2017 down to 2019, okay, we bounced off of this 200 weekly SMA. And then what happened before the bull market of 2020? We bounced off of the 200 weekly SMA. And then whenever we had the bull market, where do we pull back to? The 200 weekly SMA. Now here's the thing. We ended up going below it, okay? That's the big thing, because a lot of people are comparing this bear market to 2022. So they're saying, okay, we had a higher high and then we fell, higher high, then we fell. Then we had a little complacency shoulder and then we fell. Complacency shoulder, then we fell. You see what I'm saying? Like and I'll go ahead and draw this as well, just real quick. Okay, boom, and then we fell, and then we had a complacency shoulder. So, boom, then we fell, then we had a complacency shoulder. You see that? And then we went lower. And so if this is going to happen here, how low is that going to take us? Well, let's measure it out. Let's see. So, price, and this is what I was talking about earlier, price, let's do from candle close, from 65K all the way down to 75% down to 16K. So if we take that same logic and we say, okay, from the top to the bottom is going to be 75%. Well, that would take us near 30K. And that was my 30K original target. Now, if we go to the past here, what happened in 2018? How much do we retrace from 2018? Well, top of 20K down to the low of around 83%. So we had an 83% retracement, a 75% retracement. Now, how much are we going to retrace here? Now, let's just say we're going up 8%. So let's say it's not going to be 75. So plus 8, because we went 83% and then 75%. So now maybe we're only going 68%, right? 68 would put us around 39, 40K. Still very low. Okay. So this is what I'm saying is, yes, I mean, we could bounce off this and that was it, right? Now we're just consolidating for a few months. And now it's like, okay, and then we'll do the bull market after that. Right? Very possible, which the bull market, I think a lot of people are expecting around, what do we have? Around October? So, yeah. So I think potentially, I mean, we're still bouncing up here, maybe potential low, right? And then that. So I think that October would probably be around there. Yeah. And then that would be around October here, before we have the pump. So maybe something like this, where we have a bleed, maybe form a little ascending or descending wedge, and then we break out. Maybe form a little bullish divergence, higher lows on the RSI. Well, price makes a lower low, right? Something like, boom. So we have bullish divergence, price makes lower low, and then we just continue higher. And then that starts the second end of the bull run, or the first part of the bull run, okay? That's a possibility as well. But you see how oversold these weekly indicators are. This RSI is nearly oversold on the week. The last time it was this oversold was 2022. Now what happened? Again, went oversold, bounced a little bit, and then bled more over the next few months. Could that happen there? We formed a bullish divergence. Price made lower lows, RSI made higher lows, and then we bounced. So that's what I'm saying. Could we have some type of similar thing where it's okay, and then we go higher, right? We have the bullish divergence, the lower low, or the higher low. So a lot of theories going on. Also, something else I wanted to mention is Fibonacci. So you guys are getting a lot of alpha right now. So Fibonacci, make sure take some notes if you aren't. So if you take Fibonacci is very important, guys. Very, very important. So if you take, let's just say the bottom, okay, November 2022, and you draw a Fibonacci line all the way to the top. Where's that 618 at? Where's that 618 retracement? Oh, 57.2K. Oh, wow, that coincides with the 200 weekly SMA. Oh, wow, we bounced just above that. Not a coincidence, guys. Not a coincidence. The golden pocket, 6.5 to 6.18, for those who don't know, for the Fibonacci, is a very, very important level. A lot of algorithms have it baked in. A lot of institutions trade it. Basically, what it's saying is price has retraced 68% from the highs. Okay? So that's saying that these are where all your levels are at. The 786, look where the 786 is at. Oh, 39K. What does that line up with? Oh, it lines up where we bounced at January 2024. You see how all of these things line up? And so that's why I'm saying if we fall through here, be ready to long everything at 39K. Just be ready. But if not, even better, fine, right? But again, it's just a lot of levels to look out for. That's why I want you guys to be prepared. I don't want you guys to be caught offside. Say, why are we still dropping? Still in a bear market until we're not. Okay, let me look at some of the comments real quick. Win says, altcoin and meme coin. What's the difference? I'm new. Altcoin is basically has some actual utility to it, meaning people can actually use it for something. Like if they're building a product, like Hyperliquid, for example, they literally have a whole platform that people are using, right? That's an altcoin. Whereas like Penguin is a meme coin because it's based off a meme. So literally, if it's based off a meme, it's a meme coin. It has no utility. That's the easiest difference. Lahel's, let's see. Thomas says, hey, I'm new to crypto and want to trade my first. Oh, yeah, I already went over that. Donata Imagine says, a lot of people are saying not to spend money on crypto, but isn't starting with 100 or 500 better than just letting the money sit around? So yes and no. They're saying that because it's so hard to trade right now. Even the experienced traders are having a hard time because it's so volatile. It's not really respecting levels as much. And it's, there's so many different coins to choose from. And so, yeah, right now it's very, very hard. That's why people are telling you that, to just be cautious. And honestly, I mean, you're probably better off just starting some company or some type of venture using AI, or just trying to make some money on the side with, I don't know, developing an app or developing some type of service, right? Selling something that deals with AI. Like basically there's so many opportunities, whether it's drop shipping, e-commerce, etc., that's better than crypto right now. And so if you can find those and take advantage of those and use the bear market for building, as they say, then you'll probably make more money. Just being honest. ICP locks, no opinion on ICP. I'll go over that in a minute. No problem, Lokta. Vaishnav says, what do you think about Pepe and Startcoin? Pepe's okay. Startcoin is a privacy token. Could gain some traction if the privacy narrative really, hits off again, like it did with XMR and Zcash, but we'll have to see if that's the case. Hogsey says, what can we expect from tomorrow? I'm more on the side of a bearish marker. I believe Trump has a plan of lowering BTC price for USA to get as much as possible. It's possible. Now, I know that Jim Cramer was saying the US was purchasing Bitcoin at 60K for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Is that confirmed? No, it's not confirmed. But Jim Cramer's saying it. Could be blowing smoke. He could, but it's not, I don't know, say necessarily it's not like him to just talk about that. Maybe someone told him that as a rumor because they know he would talk about it on the news, but Yeah, it's possible. I've heard various sides of the U.S. or other people wanting to lower the Bitcoin price to purchase more. So that's something that's still possible, right? But I think all of these levels did line up regardless, and that's why we bounced. Donata Imagine says, this is so helpful. Thank you. Hey, no problem. Again, guys, it's all about comparing, past data. Now, history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. And you're seeing that with what's happened in the market so far. And so I just want you guys to have accurate targets and just to be ready and just understand why the market is acting the way it is. And the truth is, you have big institutions that are betting at these levels, okay? They have their high frequency trading algorithms literally programmed to long when we get close to these levels. So it's not rocket science, guys. It's actually stuff that actually matters and stuff that is accurate and plays out statistically over time. And that's all the market is. It's a game of statistics and betting when the risk reward is on your side. Adam Musalu says, bro, any advice from you? My only goal is to be a full-time trader, but it's hard, especially in the crypto market. What should I keep in mind? Be honest. Okay, well, honestly, a full-time trader, it's going to be probably one of the hardest things you've ever done. Because in order to be a full-time trader, you have to master your emotions. You have to literally be emotionless in the sense of it's going to be your only source of income. Well, I'll say this. Try to have other sources of income. If you're a full-time trader, try to just diversify yourself, have other sources of income coming in. Because yes, full-time trading can be your main source of income, but if it's your only source of income, then if the market dumps like it did recently and you're not prepared, then you're going to be up a creek. So first and foremost, have other sources of income in addition to being a full-time trader. Now, when you're a full-time trader, you have to put in the time needed to master the market. And that goes with mastering technical analysis. That goes with charting, learning support resistance, learning trend lines, learning indicators, learning the basics of technical analysis is going to be your bread and butter. Okay. That's going to help you just in general, right? Be emotionless when you're betting and saying, okay, the 200 weekly SMA has been fairly significant. Also, we're at the fib level here. Okay. I'm gonna start betting between these levels, right? Literally you just have to have that machine-like execution and not think, oh, the market's dropping. Oh, everyone's saying we're gonna go lower. Oh, no. You can't think that way. You literally just have to be militia in your thinking, be a robot, and just say, okay, we're getting close to these levels. I'm gonna start bidding regardless, right? You have the fear and greed index at 5. You have indicators oversold. You have all this stuff, but people are telling you lower. No, if you act on the data, then you're literally gonna catch these moves before everyone else. So that's the first thing, learning the basics of TA, and it helps you to become emotionless, which is what you need to do with trading. And then second, just build up a good nest egg before you become a full-time trader. So whether that's 6 months of income that you have stashed away, because you don't want to be trading month-to-month rent. Meaning if you don't make profit this month, you can't pay your rent. You do not want to be in that position. I promise you, it's going to put too much stress on you. You're not going to trade accurately if you're betting on next month's rent being profitable. So have 6 months rent already saved up. If you live with your parents, even better. But you got to put in the time. Otherwise, you're not going to be profitable in this market straight up, because you're competing against hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are trying to do the same thing you're doing. And you think you're going to outcompete them by only giving 50% effort. It's not going to work. Don't expect 100% of the success if you're only giving 50% effort. Just that's with anything with your job, anything with, competition in sports, in trading. If you're not giving 100% effort, well, don't complain when you're not the winner. Don't complain when you're not making profit. It's just the way it is. It's life. Some people learn it sooner. Some people learn it later. But yeah, you got to put in the time, and also surround yourself with people that are better than you, because you have to be in that positive mindset. You have to be around killers who live and breathe this stuff and trade this stuff every day, because that's how you get better. That's how you learn how the market operates. And then that's how you become successful. Wynn says, can y'all see my question chat? Yes. Yep. I saw it there. I'm charting as well. So that's why I'm just taking a little bit longer to get some of these questions. But thank you guys for the likes. If you haven't liked the video, please like it. It'd help a lot. Appreciate it. F. Nonzel says, any pairs to trade? Like I said, just strong pairs, Hyperliquid, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Those are the main ones. How much average capital needed? $1,000. $1,000 at a minimum would be my recommendation. Tip Topper says, what do you think about the MCO crypto channel? No thoughts about that, actually. I actually haven't watched them. Tomb says, ACD, do you think we'll have a Monday dump or pump tomorrow? Good question. It's going to depend on what Trump says, honestly. Like, he usually has some announcement Monday. If it's bullish, obviously we're pumping. If not, then we're dropping. I think that we're approaching a lot of resistance levels. I will say that. Okay. We're approaching a lot of resistance levels on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, which let me go over the other charts because I went over Bitcoin already. Let me go over Ethereum, Solana, and then I'll answer your question fully. So Ethereum, same thing here. I mean, look at this. This trend line that I drew, we bounce, and literally bounce just above it. Guys, like this is, it's so easy. It's so easy when you're charting things ahead of time because you're ready. And while everyone is telling you, oh, we're going so much lower, that's when you want to look at these levels. That's when you'll say, nope, I'm buying here. And then we bounced, right? Like I said, hindsight's 2020. It's easy to say this now after we've already bounced. It's much harder to say this when we're dropping and we're literally approaching this level, right? Like, I get it. Even I was hesitant. But when you have these levels drawn, you have these confluence levels, like that is where it's going to save you, okay? And even if we go to the Fibonacci levels here, I'm very curious because I have not charted this yet. Right here. Okay, so let's actually go, let's go to Bitstamp. And yeah, this absolute, you can see here, we drop below this resistance, and then rejected off of that there. But let's go ahead and we also have this little trend line here. It's very interesting. Also, almost a little double top here, right? Same top we got to November 2021. But anyway, let me, just for now, let me delete all. So, on the weekly, if we take the bottom and draw the fib level, where's the 786 at? 786 is another level, okay? Ethereum, yes, we didn't bounce off of this 200 weekly SMA. But we got to the 786 here, which is very, very important. And so that was a level that historically we bounced in the past. And so you could argue that, okay, maybe we have some type of bounce here. Now, if we also draw the bottom in April, right? If we say, if we draw the bottom in April, well, that 786 isn't really as accurate. So that's why I say draw it from the all-time bottoms when you're on the higher time frames. And at that point, you can see they're a little bit more accurate. But again, with Ethereum, it's not as accurate versus Bitcoin. That's why I say focus on Bitcoin, and that's going to help you with those levels. And then if you saw Ethereum just continue to drop here and close below, well, then you could say, okay, my next target is the 786. And you could also say, okay, well, on the weekly, we also have this trend line, right? And then you can see that confluence there and say, okay, I'm gonna put my range between 1700 to 1870, leverage of 3x, right? Like that's where you can start planning ahead of time and start having more confluence, because confluence is key with all of these trades. Okay, so let me go to the Bybit chart here. So for example, like I said, trend line, it held, and at that point we bounced. And now what's happening is Ethereum is actually getting above this major support zone. So this major support zone between 2000 and 2120 is very important. Now, if Ethereum can close above this on the weekly, that's going to be very, very bullish. And at that point, okay, maybe we're looking at going much higher here. Okay, we look at the indicators. The daily, you can see it's oversold, right? It's very oversold. Now we're curving to the upside. Stock RSI is curving to the upside. A lot of people don't want to long here. A lot of people are shorting right here, which is not a bad idea. If we close the daily above 2120, then that would be fairly bullish. Okay, then you could invalidate your short. But until then, well, maybe shorting is still the best, right? Until we can close above. So again, risk reward is relatively small, even if you want to do a 4-hour. But the reason here is because 2120 has been support. Now it's turned resistance, and that's why I have it as resistance here. So watching for 2120, if the daily can close above it, then I could say, okay, now we're going to 2190 and then 2370 after that. If not, then I'll look to potentially long near 2000. That may not be a bad level. And then 1830 to 1730 after that. Now, what's my lower target for Ethereum? Well, 1530 and then 1060. 1060 would be the level if Bitcoin reaches 30K. If Bitcoin reaches 30 to 40K, then we're going to 1060. Absolutely. Okay. This would be my low target where it's just go all in. Just go all in. Yeah, we could go down to 900, but just go all in here and you'll be fine. But until then, until we continue to trade above this trend line, until we continue to trade above these major support levels, well, you just got to play the level by level. Okay. That's all you can do. Then finally, let's go over Solana, and then I'll go over some more of the questions. Also, guys, please like the stream if you haven't. It'd be much, much appreciated. Now, Solana, it bounced off our daily support zone, or a weekly support zone, I should say. You can see the weekly actually bounced off of the support of $70 up to 76. So that's been doing fairly well. And so that's a level to keep in mind. And then also, I mean, you can just see why it's so important to have these levels drawn. Okay, we bounced off of 76 in the past, looking at 70 to 76 here. And then we bounced off of it with this wick. And at the same time, look at the RSI on the weekly. It's almost oversold. Stock RSI is already oversold. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, guys. When you have these oversold indications almost every time frame, it's not good to just keep shorting into oblivion, because we are going to have a bounce eventually. When there's enough confluence, like it was in these support zones, like it was with these indicators, then things start looking good. Now, where are we going for Solana? Well, same thing. We're coming up against resistance at $88, $89. Why this level? Well, in the past, if you look at the weekly, where do we bounce? $89. So now the support is going to be turned resistance, okay? So that's why I'm watching for a daily close above this. Weekly close, actually, because we close the weekly, what is it, in 4 or 5 hours? And so the weekly close is going to tell us a lot as well. If we close above, well, it could mean a further bounce. But you can look at the weekly / daily, and this is going to be the level I'm going to watch. If we close the daily above, then I'll be looking for $100 as the next target. If we close below, then we could potentially see at least a drop down to $76, which I'll be watching as well. Lower targets for Solana, looking at 59, and then $45 is going to be the bottom. If Bitcoin does get down to 30K, I can see Solana definitely at least getting down to 45. No one's going to want to buy here. No one's going to want to buy, but it's going to be a good level to buy. And then also even lower than that, $28. Again, I know these are crazy targets, guys, but you got to remember, if we're in a bear market doesn't care about these numbers. It's going to play out how it's going to play out. So that's what I'm watching. Awesome. So let's go ahead and see some of the questions. Lex says, how do you think Epstein could alter the market? You know, it's interesting. There's some people still saying Epstein's alive. Again, we're getting into crazy conspiracy territory, which I could talk, guys, I could be here talking forever about Epstein, about aliens, about all that stuff. Like I could talk for a while on this stream about that stuff, and I'd love to, but not today. I still got some stuff to do. I have some errands to run after this. But yeah, Epstein, again, there's just talks. He's potentially Satoshi. There's some emails. There's a lot of FUD. He's not Satoshi. He's not Satoshi. But I do think that there's some connection there, but I think it's probably after the fact. Let's see what else. Nguyen says, how to know that coin pair would likely long-term be stable for investing? You're just looking at relative strength. And what I mean by relative strength is, for example, if you're looking at, let's say, a hype BTC pair. So this is Hyperliquid compared with BTC. Okay. And so this is where you have Hyperliquid compared, here we go. Hyperliquid compared with BTC and its relative performance. Okay. And you can see, and we can also pull up the Bitcoin chart. So we can pull up the Bitcoin chart here and can do a new price scale. And so you can see here that as Bitcoin declined, Hyperliquid, if you want to add hype as well, right? Hyperliquid, as Bitcoin declined, Hyperliquid was actually rising. And Hyperliquid actually rose a little bit more. That's why, again, I know it's harder to read, but basically it's just saying that Hyperliquid paired against BTC was outperforming. The Hyperliquid price is in turquoise, okay? So the Hyperliquid price was rising in turquoise as Bitcoin was falling. So relatively, you can see that the pairing that we've drawn here, Hype versus BTC, was outperforming. So you can also look at pairs, okay? Even with, like, for example, Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Ethereum has been underperforming versus Bitcoin. If you would have held Ethereum since January of 19th instead of Bitcoin, you would have underperformed. If you would have held Bitcoin, you would have overperformed. You would have had more money. And so again, looking at relative strength is very, very important. Determining which tokens to invest in. And when tokens outperform, that's going to be your best bet. Let's see. The Hexter says, is your X indicator available to the public? So it is not. So if you're talking about, and I'll go ahead and show it. If you're talking about this indicator here, candle matrix. No, so it's not available to the public right now. I do have, again, doing my own group that I have, and it is available in there if you purchase the quarterly plan for that. But yeah, it is not available to the public right now. So again, if you're not following me on X, go follow me there. Check my links here. That's how you can join the quarterly. But like I said, that's where I have it gatekept for now. I may sell it individually on TradingView. My TradingView is CryptoScripts. So if you guys aren't focused on there, let me see if I can. Candle matrix. Okay. Yeah. So this is right here. So this is my CryptoScripts is my actual profile. So if you're not following me on there, I can also, here we go. Yeah, so this is me here. Okay, CryptoScripts. So that's another one where if you guys aren't following me on TradingView, there you go. And then I post like my indicators and stuff as well. But yeah, so I've had this account for a while. I've been developing indicators, etc. But yeah, if you join my group, then obviously you can get access to it. But it's gonna be in my X page. But with that said, yeah, just look at pairings and then you'll be able to identify which ones will outperform. Hogsy says, thanks, man. Great info. Hey, appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for the love. And this stream is actually going pretty long right now, but you guys still have some questions, so I want to make sure I share as much info as possible, especially considering how uncertain the market is. Like, yeah, it's the least I can do to share some good info. Darian says, what kind of event do you think is going to happen for us to bounce and have that bull market? So a few things, right? And there's a couple things I was looking for. One, the government to reopen completely. So there's going to be no uncertainty with the government shutdown. And two, Kevin Warsh making some bullish comments about crypto. Those two things happening would be very, very bullish. And I think that would cause a nice little relief bounce over the next month. Okay. Also, cherry on top would be the US-Iran forming a resolution this coming week. Like those three events. Okay. Yeah. We're having a relief rally because if you think about it, that's the biggest uncertainty in the market right now. Yes, tariffs are still an issue, but the government shutdown potentially happening at the end of next week. Kevin Warsh being hawkish, so him making some bullish comments about crypto, and then the US-Iran tensions. Those are all uncertainties right now that the market is questioning if it's going to continue, right, or not. So those are the events I'm looking for. What else we got? How do you short Bitcoin in a simple way? So you can use BloFin. So BloFin is a very easy leverage trading exchange, and you can make an account on there, no non-KYC. And so I think there may be a link in the description to join that. But yeah, BloFin is a very, very easy to use platform. I also made a tutorial video on it. If you want to look at my profile, CryptoData, if you type that in YouTube and then just type in BloFin in the search results on my videos, and you'll see I made a tutorial on it. Hexstar says, I think Bitcoin can bounce off of the 0.886. What do you think? Possible. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. See the 886 for the fib. That would be, let's see, where's that at? See the 886. Let's go ahead and add that real quick. 618, 65, 786. Let's go ahead and add. Let's see if I can add the. Okay, so the 886-28345, that's possible as well. That's possible as well, yeah. I mean, this lines up with that 30K, right? If we're talking about percentages, if we're going 75% down from the highs, that would line up with the 28 to 30K. So it's very possible. Very, very possible. That's another level to watch out for. Hogsy says, we also know Trump has a big ego and will keep the promises he made. That's another thing. So remember, we have midterms coming up, November 2026. And historically, I mean, just based off of Trump's actions, we know that he's going to want to pump the market ahead of midterms, right? He'll want to get his constituents reelected. And the best way to do that, obviously the market's doing good, economy's doing good, makes it an easy vote for his side, right? And so that's the thing as well you have to think about, guys. There's all kinds of catalysts. You have the midterms, and then you have obviously a new Fed chair. Trump's going to want him to cut rates, so you're probably going to cut rates a couple times before the midterms. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between May and November of this year. And so I think bottoming out, I would say October will be my bet when we're actually bottoming out and we start the bull market. That doesn't mean we're going to go below 60K. That just means that we're going to stop consolidating and start rising. And so that's the time to go all in, October of this year. See, bruh said, my alts are down 50%. Should I just take the loss? So, bruh, it depends what alts you're holding. If you're holding some random alts that no one's heard about or just that haven't been performing well relative to the overall market, absolutely sell them. Like, cut them off, right? Because you should be invested in alts that are outperforming, alts that have good relative strength versus Bitcoin. That could be, Canton, that could be Hyperliquid, that could be a few others. And so alts that show relative strength, I think, are a safer bet than alts that are down 50% because, again, crypto is based off of hype and attention. If there's no hyper attention on your altcoins, then they're just going to bleed into oblivion. Yes, they'll still respect some of their weekly support levels and RSI indications, but at the same time, are they going to pump as much as a token that has a lot more attention, right? Chances are probably no. Mr. Microsoft, what should we look out for in terms of currencies and how they'll affect Bitcoin price? Really just look at the DXY, the dollar, the strength of the dollar. And more or less, there's like a 70% inverse correlation there. So if the dollar declines, Bitcoin rises. If the dollar rises, Bitcoin drops. Usually. I say 70% because now it's not as clear cut because we have the dollar rising, but Bitcoin is still rising today. Again, not as clear cut, but I would say looking at the strength of the dollar, the more strength the dollar has, the worse that Bitcoin's going to do. Usually. I smell Subair. Do you think bottom is in? I think the bottom is in for now. Yeah, probably for the next week or two. I don't think it's all-time bottom is in though. I think potentially we could still go a little bit lower. But I mean, it all depends. Jim Cramer is saying that the U.S. is buying Bitcoin for their strategic reserve at 60K. If that comes out and the government like actually backs that and says they are, then things are going to change because the government's probably going to buy billions of Bitcoin per month. Things are going to change if that's the case. So if that's the case, the government is actually buying for their strategic reserve, yes, the bottom is in. If not, then we're going lower. Win says $1,000 without worrying, right? If $1,000 is all you have, you should get a job instead of thinking about trading. Yes. Now, if $1,000 is all you have, no, don't even think about trading. Like honestly, you need to be able to lose all your money that you put into trading, like mentally. So for example, if you're betting $1,000, can you lose that $1,000 overnight and be fine? If no, then don't invest it. If you can lose it and you'll be fine, then you can trade it. But have a nest egg, first of all, and then just have some discretionary income on the side. Start with $50, start with $25. Just get used to trading, get used to navigating the market. Paper trade, actually. There's demo trading accounts you can open on BloFin. You can literally paper trade. You don't have to have real money. You just use their fake money. And you can just get used to leverage trading if you want, or used to technical analysis where you're drawing support resistance lines and then testing out if price bounces at these levels. I mean, there's just different ways you can do where you don't have to risk a lot of money. You only want to risk money whenever you have a strategy that's accurate and that has been back tested 50 to 100 plus trades, and you know that it works, let's say 60 to 70% of the time. Okay, fine. Then you can start implementing some money afterwards. But until then, don't even think about it. Tip Topper, how do you find a better circle of friends if you're not on that level yet? You don't provide enough value yet, but at the same time, you need them for improvement. Great question, Tip Topper. And this goes into the same point about when you're leveling up as a person, there's going to be a lonely period. And I know Alex Hormozy talks about this, one of the most successful e-com guys. There's a period where you're so different from your old friends that you're not hanging out with them, but you haven't quite reached your goal of being successful to hang out with your new friends. So you're in this limbo period where it's like you're changing and you don't want to hang out with your old friends and party and do all the stuff you did, but you're not quite successful enough to hang out with those new rich friends yet, right? Like there's a weird period. So during that time, find a mentor. Look for someone that can help you along the way. Where do you find mentors? Well, depending. If you're going to college, I know they have mentorship programs. If you're in high school, maybe asking your teachers, do they know a good mentor? Find someone that can take you under their wing and help you out along the way. There's all kinds of people, even mentorship programs. Like you can even look on Google, right? You can find a mentor. There's all kinds of mentors, and even getting an internship at a certain job, someone to help you all along, right? Like there's all kinds of ways you can better yourself if you don't necessarily have that group of friends that are very successful, okay? Finding a mentor is a good middle ground. But I mean, really though, if you can just ask, right? Try to ask people online, see people who are successful. Hey, can you help me a little bit? I'm having trouble. Can you give me some advice? Like that could help. And then maybe they're in some groups. Like find a way where you can provide value. I'll say that. Because if you can provide value, people are going to invite you into their alpha groups. People are going to invite you into their cliques. And that's how you level up. Okay. So get really good at a skill that you can share with people and provide value, whether that, you become really good at technical analysis and calling bottoms or shorting tops, then you can provide that value and you can become like a caller, right? Or you can become a good analyst and you can join that group and provide your analysis, or just grow your socials, right? It could just be yourself, like provide value on X, on YouTube. Like having social capital is so important nowadays, where once you get to a point where you're like, okay, I got 1,000 followers and I got 5,000, I got 10,000, then those successful people are going to gravitate towards you. They're like, oh, hey man, yeah, you've been doing really well. And then that's when you can get in the door. Building that social capital is really going to help, or developing a skill that's useful, or getting a mentor, or getting an internship if you're in college at some job, shadowing someone, learning from them, or even YouTube, right? I mean, if there's no one you can find at all and you're still new in your journey, watch some of the most successful people on YouTube and see how they got to where they are. What habits did they pick up? What did they do? What was their work ethic? What was their discipline? What was their routine? And start emulating them. Because if you emulate the person you want to become, it's inevitable that you will become that person. If you are doing the things that millionaires do, it's impossible for you not to become a millionaire. If you're waking up early, if you have a routine, if you're organized, if you're constantly bettering yourself, if you're getting out of your comfort zone, if you're helping others, if you're surrounding yourself with better people that are better than you, if you're doing all of that, it is impossible for you not to become a millionaire. But you have to put in the work, and that's where people fall short. They think that they can become successful overnight, and that's not how it happens. It takes time. That's why most people are not successful, because they can't commit. They can't commit to not hanging out with their friends, to not going to parties, to not watching Netflix, to not eating junk food. They can't commit to that. It's too hard for them. When the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change, that's when you'll change. When it's so painful for you to stay in your current position in life that you can't take it anymore and you have to change, then that's when you're going to change. Because some people do that earlier, some people do that later. But I'll tell you what, regret is the worst thing to have in life. So either have the pain of discipline or have the pain of regret. Just choose one. It's going to be one or the other. You can't have both. Choose one or the other. And I promise you the pain of discipline is much better, because at least you're seeing yourself change versus wondering what if for the rest of your life. Musk says, what do you think about Chainlink becoming the top 3 crypto next cycle? Chainlink is good into RWA platforms, real world assets, but at the same time, it hasn't been gaining that much traction. So I would just say, just be careful with that. Win says, can you publicly share how much to join a premium Discord for people to think about financial spending smart? So for gym hunters, it's 1 Ethereum for a yearly subscription. I think I have my own as well. It's $149 per month or $349 for 3 months. So my links are on my X account at the CryptoData. But yeah, Gem Hunters is 1 Ethereum for a yearly subscription. Hexstar says the 0.8886 fib level on bounce on BTC. Yep, it's possible. See, the Hunt says BTC will have drops and bounces between 60 to 85 during the following months. Around October, we'll see the bottom. The 4-year cycle is still in play and is playing exactly the same as it always does. Yes, the Hunt, absolutely. I could see that as well. Win says an average capital to join and optimize value on the premium Discord, $1,000. Hexstar says any filters on stock RSI? No, the stochastic RSI is default, same as the RSI. Tip Topper, why are candle closes so important? Is there a specific technical or fundamental reason? So candle closes are so important because they are basically confirming that the whales and institutions, or at least how should I say this? It's a confirmation of where the big traders want price to be. Okay. And I say that meaning, for example, if you're closing above 72K, then that tells you there is more buyers than sellers that would like to buy at 72K or higher. They're willing to buy up to that price, right? Which is very bullish. Whereas if it wicks to that level, that means eventually it was not able to close above that. That means there's more sellers than buyers who are not willing to buy above that level. So in layman's terms, that's what it means. Let's see. Lighter says, look at hype, please, in KTA. Okay, so Hyperliquid right now, 3250. I actually had some support levels here, down at 3130, and then all the way down here to 3050. It wicked down. Let me see if it wicked down earlier. Yeah, it wicked all the way down to 3050 actually. So now would I buy here? Well, let's go ahead and there you go. So I mean, this is good support, right? The daily closed at 3130, and now we went much higher. And so hype looks fairly good. What I will say is the RSI is obviously not as oversold as it is on other tokens. And so Hyperliquid still has some room to go to the upside. The stock RSI potentially resetting at 50. And so, yeah, hype may not be bad here. It's making higher lows, which is bullish. And so I would look for the 3130 level to hold. If it can't hold, then we're definitely going to retest at least $30. But for now, the target I'll be looking at for hype at a minimum would be 33. So we'll do this: 33.30 and 34.50. 33.30 and 34.50. These are two levels to watch out for hype. These would be little resistance levels. And then finally 35.60. So yeah, if you're buying hype, it's not a bad level to buy now. I mean, the RSI and stock RSI are still doing fairly well in the weekly. So we still have some room to run. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's best to buy near 31.30 if you can. But for now, I would say resistance is going to be around 33.20. And then you said KTA. Yeah, KTA. We'll go and look at that real quick. So KTA is at 28 cents. Had a nice bounce at 23. Right now, resistance will be 31. It's kind of in the middle of no man's land. I would not buy here. I would at the very least wait to buy at 25 cents. But yeah, 31 and then 34 also having some resistance. So that's where I would watch for that. The indicators, the RSI is close to crossing above its signal line, and the stock RSI is looking good. So KTA looks like it could have some good momentum. Looks like it could have some good momentum up to 31 if you're holding. Again, if you're holding right now, or if you haven't bought yet, just be careful. Like, yes, we technically do have a little bit of micro support here from resistance turn support. So not horrible, but for me, I'd much rather wait for 25 cents or even better, 23.5 cents. Snifted says, CD, you like conspiracy theories? I do, actually. I do, because most conspiracy theories turn out to being true. Funny enough. Lighter says, when do you think hype will go to 45? Maybe in a few months. Maybe in another month or two. I mean, well, I don't want to say that. If it's not in the next few months, then it's going to be after October, because I do agree we're going to chop a lot. And so, yeah, Hyperliquid still has some room to go. But yeah, I would say in the next month or two, if Bitcoin chops around and gets up to 80K, it's very likely we could see hype at least getting closer to that 45. But it's going to be, in my opinion, probably a little bit longer than that. So I'll just keep playing it level by level. No problem, Xavier. Sniffed, it says, pretty long stream today. Just so you know, it's very appreciated. Hey, thank you guys so much. I'm so glad you're enjoying the stream. Again, it's a much longer stream than I usually do, but just because the market has been very non-standard recently and we are in an official bear market, then yeah, I'm making an exception right now. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Successful quote says, are your indicators live? So they are live, but they aren't public. Again, they're private indicators. You access them by joining my private group, getting a quarterly plan, $349 for every 3 months. And so that's linked on my X account at the CryptoData. See, Onkit says, happy birthday, sir. Thanks for the knowledge. Hey, Onkit, appreciate it. So yeah, it's actually, whose birthday was it? Someone's, Eshwar's birthday. I think it was Eshwar's birthday. He's turning 22. So yes, happy birthday to him. Let's see. Ankit says, please talk about gold. You're the best, sir. I appreciate that. So we'll cover, gold I was looking at earlier, but we'll just cover real quick. If the weekly can't close above 5,000, then potentially we could see a further drop down to 45.30. 5,000 is a big level to watch for gold. So the RSI is still way overbought. So gold should have some type of big pullback soon. I know it had one earlier, but yeah, 5,000 is a big level to watch for that. Successful quote says, how do you identify the end? Central banks buying gold and selling dollars worries me. Do they know something we don't? But I want to know your opinion and strategy. How would you identify it? Great question. So yeah, where's the end? When is the great reset starting? When is the whole stock market going to crash? All that good stuff. So that's good questions. And yes, precious metals rising as much as they are is definitely a red flag. That's usually what happens towards the end, right? And we can look at similarities to 2008, the financial crisis. And I think you can look at treasury yields as well. But the big thing for when is the end, when you start seeing, the dollar continuing to collapse and precious metals continuing to rise, that's really when, it's the beginning of the end. And that's kind of telegraphing that people are not confident in the dollar, that people would rather invest in precious metals. And also, you could also look at default rates, right? Same thing that happened in the 2008 crisis where people were defaulting on their loans, on their mortgages. That could be another indicator. And what else do we have? We also have, just looking at the overall economy. If you have unemployment rate rising, if you have, just things starting to just break, right? Maybe you have banks defaulting, maybe you have things, companies going under. There's just certain things you can look at. But yeah, I think precious metals is just definitely a red flag. You could say, okay, we're probably going to have a drop soon. And obviously, technicals wise, when the S&P is rising as much as it is, and now it's forming bearish divergences, and now it's not supporting these higher highs, and now indicators aren't right, eventually do you have the rollover, eventually, which I do think will happen this year. And so you just have to look for, is the underlying data supporting the prices? And if the answer is no, well, eventually the system's going to break. And you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask Grok, you can ask Gemini, you can ask Claude, all the AIs, and say, what are the signs that the economy is breaking, that the market's going to crash? And it'll give you a list, and it's a good list as well. And so you can look at that. You can look at various factors. You can look at interest rates. You can look at the history of quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, and just look in general what happened with the market whenever those events stopped or started. That can help you predict what's going to happen. Wynn says, if you're done with paper trading next, would you go for funded or live trading with less money to collect real data? Yeah. So if you're done with paper trading, then do really low amounts to get used to betting with real money. Absolutely. Should I start taking long positions on all-time low BTC ETH SOL? I think low leverage, yeah. Low leverage, you could DCA down. DCAing is going to be your friend, dollar cost averaging. Don't invest everything at one level. Just invest in a range and very low leverage, or just spot, I think. But yeah, 3x leverage max. Ankit says, thank you for the knowledge here, sir. Ain't no problem. What's going on, Wealth Management Brand? Good to see you here. Klaus says Solana is so oversold at the moment. It really is, right? And like I said, if it gets down to 70 again, it's going to be a great level to buy. If you were Tip Topper says, if you were 20 years old, how much time would you spend looking for a girlfriend or in a relationship? Or should you focus more on yourself first? Tip Topper, this is a great question. So yeah, let's get into some more health and lifestyle questions here. So if I was 20 years old, would I look for a girlfriend right now? No. I would get myself right first. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you don't have yourself right, meaning you don't have either a proper job, or you don't have a proper routine, or you don't have your health right, meaning, if you aren't at the weight that you want to be at, if you want to lose weight or you want to gain weight, whatever it is, like, get your health and mindset right first of all, right? Spiritually, mentally, physically, get all of that stuff right. Have a routine, have a good job. If you're going to school right now, fine. If you're going to, college right now, that's fine. I mean, you can still look for a girlfriend there, but just make sure you have your health and stuff right. I'm not saying don't try to find someone when you're in college, but in general, just make sure you have all of the basics down and you have a goal for what you want to do in life, and then find someone that complements you. Okay. Once you find that out, because if you find someone that always wants to party, someone that always talks down to you, someone that's saying, why are you doing that? Why are you trying to be successful? Like, why are you trying to be that ambitious? No, that's not the person for you. Okay. So I would say don't rush it, because the person you're going to marry, I'm telling everyone here, whether you're a woman or a male, like, the person you're going to marry is the most important decision of your life. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. I promise you, because you do not want to go through a divorce, period. And worst of all, you don't want to stay with someone that's toxic for a long time and then regret it later. So don't feel like you have to rush being in a relationship. I know your family or friends may say, hey, why don't you have a girlfriend yet? Why don't you have a boyfriend yet? No, who cares? It's their life. It's your life. It's not theirs. So get your life right. If you want to wait till your finances are right as well, like you have a stable job, stable income to where you can support your girlfriend, absolutely wait for that. Okay. But make sure that they're bettering you as a person and not making you worse. And that's what dating is for. It's for finding out how someone reacts and how someone acts day to day, and if they're going to compliment you or going to be a detriment to you. And so that'd be my advice, is just get yourself right. Don't rush it. And when you find someone, make sure that they're making you better, not worse. Yeah, and like Snifta said, dating is very hard in 2026. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's social media has distorted a lot of perception of what the right woman or the right guy should be. And so it's going to take some work. It's going to take some work finding the right person. But again, being patient is going to pay off. Neuro says, fair value gap reaction looks clean. Waiting for confirmation. Absolutely. Win says, thank you for today. Really appreciate it. Can we end the stream with pray? Amen. Yes. So yeah, I mean, again, with prayer, I think that prayer is, very important, and everyone should have a religion, period. If you're an atheist, I would highly suggest researching religion, whether it's Christianity, whether it's, Islam, Judaism, I mean, whatever it is, right? Just find a religion. Myself, personally, I'm Christian, okay? I believe Jesus died for our sins and he will be resurrected. But as long as you have a religion, it's going to help you have a support system, okay? Whatever that is. And so just make sure that a religion is just as important as getting your health right, getting your mental state right, and getting your physical state right. Absolutely. Successful quotes. Is the 4-year cycle still in play? Yes, absolutely. The 4-year cycle, we topped out in October, and we are going to, in my opinion, continue to chop until October of this year, and that's going to mark the bottom. Neuro HQ says, what's the number one lifestyle mistake most people make unknowingly? The number one lifestyle mistake is thinking that they have too much time. Thinking that they have too much time and they'll do it tomorrow. They'll do it tomorrow. But I'm telling you right now, you said you would do it tomorrow, today. Okay? And so if you're a procrastinator, if you're a serial procrastinator, and you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is today, if you think about it. Because if you keep saying you'll do it tomorrow, well, today is tomorrow. Are you going to do it? Or are you going to be a liar to yourself? You can lie to everyone, but just don't lie to yourself. Okay? Because when you lie to yourself and you tell yourself you're going to do something, but you don't do it, then it makes it that much harder to follow through next time you say you're going to do something. The brain is a very, very interesting muscle, you could say, or interesting part of the human biology where it literally just takes whatever input it's given. So if you give it positivity, if you focus and you actually complete the task you say you're going to complete, well, the brain says, okay, this person is actually committed and this person is going to accomplish what they say they're going to do. And that's going to help you do that. But if you constantly procrastinate and you delay and you tell yourself you're going to do something, but you don't, because you think you have so much time. Well, the brain is going to adapt accordingly. And the brain's going to say, no, why are we doing it now? Why shouldn't we just watch Netflix? Why shouldn't we just eat that Twinkie, eat those sweets? Why don't we go out with our friends? We can do this tomorrow. I'm telling you guys, the more bad habits you accumulate, the harder it is to change them. So don't make the mistake of thinking you have too much time, because you don't. You could die tomorrow. We all could die tomorrow. We could die today. So are you going to focus on the now, or are you going to continue living in the what if? What if I could have done this? What if I could have done that? Because the future is now. And so either you can decide to be successful starting today, or you can wonder what if 30 years from now. Wynn says, what's the difference between your mentorship and Jim Hunter? So basically just different kinds of trades and different kinds of content. I have lifestyle content as well, book recommendations, motivational quotes, a health and wellness section, all that. So I focus a little bit more on both versus just crypto. Neuro is start trading at 15 early. No, it's never too early to start trading, but you have to learn to have proper discipline if you're going to start. So if you have a proper plan in place and you're not betting, you're only betting with what you can afford to lose, then no, it's never too early to start. If anything, it's better to start early because then you develop those skills, but making sure that you follow the proper strategy and you learn the right way when you're young, that's going to be the most important for you. Learning the right way, just like when you're starting working out. If you're learning to deadlift or bench the wrong way, then you're going to mess yourself up down the line. But if you're learning the right technique from the start, then you're going to become that much better than everyone else who started the wrong way. So starting early at 15, yes, use that to your advantage, but make sure you're learning the right way for technical analysis, for how to analyze the market, for managing your emotions, for managing your risk, managing your portfolio, all of that stuff. Learn the right way from the start. That way you won't have to learn the hard way later on. Successful Quote says, what do you think about Epstein case and the connection with global politics? The level of propaganda to silence this and having Trump still in charge is insane. What's your opinion on this? So yeah, just real quick, I'll touch on Epstein. I think Epstein was a tool for the government. I think that he was used to blackmail high-profile individuals, and he was using that leverage to control what the top people in the world wanted him to control. So basically, he had blackmail on celebrities, on high-profile government officials, and he would basically blackmail them to do what he wanted, or at least other government officials would blackmail them to do what they wanted. Okay, I think it was all about control at the end of the day. It's all about power and leveraging that power. And so, yeah, it's 100%. I mean, I would say 90% of people at the top right now have blackmail on them from Epstein. At least 90%. That's why we're not seeing everything unredacted, right? And so that's where you're seeing so much pushback from both sides, the left and the right, because there's dirt on both sides. Everyone's going to go down if the files are fully released, like meaning no censorship, because there's blackmail on everyone, and that's what they don't want to come to light. And so I don't think it's ever going to come to light, unfortunately, but I think everyone knows he was a government agent and for certain countries, and he had blackmail and was used to get blackmail on these people so that the people higher up could continue to have power over everyone else. That's just the way it was. Tenistic Productions, what do you think will be the bottom in this bear, predicting 38 to 45K? Yeah, 38 to 45K is definitely a big level to watch. Snifted says, CD, I feel like we can talk about life for hours here. Hey, we absolutely can. Honestly, I can talk about life forever. It's, it's one of my fortes. I love it. Angelo, do investors just hold the whole time, or can they wait for the right setup and enter? Because no way they buy, lose capital, and just buy more. That's a waste of capital, although I understand the idea of holding. So, yeah, I mean, the whole thing with being an investor is, you're buying in the bear market and then you're selling in the bull market. Now, if you're a long-term and talking about 10 years plus, then yes, you just DCA down, as crazy as that sounds. I know that there was a guy who DCA'd $30 every single day for the last, 10 years? And his average cost basis is $86,000, but now he's a millionaire by DCAing down $30 every day. Okay, so there's people like that who literally DCA into oblivion and end up profiting because over time, like the stock market, we just go up. So that is a strategy as well. But historically, it's best to DCA not when indicators are overbought, but when indicators are oversold. That's when it's advantageous risk reward wise. And so the market will always be like that. And so as an investor, yes, that's when you should DCA, when indicators are oversold. Max says, thank you so much for the stream and for the info and thoughts you've shared. Hey, no problem. Glad you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the stream. Says Tip Topper, absolutely. Neuro, do you think physical fitness improves patience and risk control in trading? Yes. Guys, everyone should be in physical fitness. I don't care if you're just walking on the treadmill 3 times a week. Do something. Get active. Because obesity is nearly the number one cause of death. I mean, people who are obese, they get more depressed. They get into bad habits easier or more. And in general, their lack of confidence, I mean, their confidence just plummets. Okay. So the news will praise obesity saying, oh, it's body positivity. Guys, no, it's not. When you're dying, that's not body positivity. You're literally dying. You're getting diabetes. You're getting all these bad things. So for anyone that's overweight right now, you can always change. Start small. Stop drinking sodas. Stop eating out of fast food, right? Do that once a week or twice a week, and then do that one time a week. Then do that no times. Start eating healthy. Drink water only. Start eating organic food if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, fine. But just eat clean. Chicken, beef, steak, rice, sweet potatoes, vegetables, Greek yogurt, oatmeal, fruits. There's always something you can do to better yourself, but the question is, do you want to change? Or do you want to keep doing the same thing that you've done last year, and you say this time is different, new year, new me, but you end up being the same you? Is this year going to be the time when you're going to change? Is this going to be your actual year? Or is it going to be a repeat of last year? And that's the harsh question a lot of people have to ask themselves and have to realize and look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm not the person who I imagined I would be by this time, right? If you could go back 10 years, what would your past self say about your future self? Would they be happy? Would they be sad? Would they be disappointed? That's the thing you have to realize is we don't have a lot of time in this world, so you can either change later or you can change now. Because life isn't guaranteed, right? Tomorrow is never guaranteed. And so why wait for the change when you can change now? And that's the question that some people realize sooner rather than later, but it's the harsh reality of life. And so yes, physical fitness matters. And like I said, you just start small, but I promise you, your confidence will go up when you get in shape. You will develop better habits. You'll be more disciplined. And in turn, that's going to improve your patience and risk control in trading because you will be used to discipline, having a routine, and it'll make it easier to follow these strategies. Tenistic Production says, what narrative or news do you think will bring the absolute capitulation bottom this year? Quantum, another macro event? They say there's going to be some type of crazy event that's going to happen that's going to mark the bottom. It's hard to say whether that's a war or whether that is, could it be quantum threat? I feel like it's going to be something with war or some type of pandemic. One of those. I don't know if it's going to be anything related to like quantum. I think quantum is still a couple of years out. IBM is launching their supercomputer 2029. I know Google already has theirs. But yeah, I think quantum, obviously when quantum gets so good to break all of the crypto algorithms, then yes, that's going to obviously cause a huge FUD event. But right now, I do know that a lot of crypto protocols are working on quantum resistant technology. So that's another thing to watch for. And the Neuro HQ, we'll have this be the last question. What is your daily routine? So my daily routine, wake up, get some sun first and foremost, guys. Do not look at your phone when you wake up because you're training your brain for dopamine literally the instant you wake up. Don't do that. Wake up, get some sun, enjoy it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you have no sun, get some red light therapy in. If you don't have a red light therapy machine, then just meditate, okay? Just meditate. Just get your mind right. Start journaling. Write down what your goals are for the day. You should actually write them down the day prior so you're ready to go, but write what your goals are for the day, what your tasks are for the day so you can attack them immediately. Drink water. I do that first thing in the morning. I drink at least 8 ounces of water because you're dehydrated when you sleep. So make sure you drink at least 8 to 10 ounces of water. And then, like I said, meditate, pray, start your routine, journal, write what you have to do, and then start getting after it. And that's how I start my day, is because it's most important not to start your day with dopamine-filled tasks because then you feel like, a constant need for dopamine throughout the day. If you started with tasks that you don't want to do, I mean, I don't say you don't want to go out in the sun, but I'm saying that if you start tasks that are somewhat hard, so whether just making up your bed or doing some chores that you need to do, or again, getting some sun first, drinking some water first, not checking your phone, then that's going to help control those urges and help keep you disciplined throughout the day. And then literally just getting your tasks done that you need to do. If you got to work out, get it done throughout the day. Stop waiting until 8 or 9 at night. Just get it done. Doing the hardest things first thing in the morning is, I promise you, is going to be so much better for you mentally. It's going to help give you that energy to keep going afterwards. Water with salt for electrolytes. There you go. And then XMR long term, it's not bad. That's a privacy token, right? I think over time it'll have a good use case. And so I don't think it's too bad. I think it definitely could have some use case down the line as potentially diversifying. But again, make sure to only buy whenever the indicators are oversold, or at least it's best for you risk reward wise. But with that said, guys, hopefully y'all enjoyed the stream. This was an 1.5-hour stream, so quite a long one, but I think it was much needed, especially considering how the market reacted. Again, if you aren't following me on X at the CryptoData, definitely do so. Check out my pinned message. Check out all of my previous messages. I like to post motivational content as well. So again, it's all about just being patient in this market, not overreacting, touching some grass when you need to, developing a strategy, and then executing when the time is appropriate. So thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys. Hope you have a great day. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're watching it today. And then have a great weekend and have a great rest of the week, guys. Love you. Talk soon. See ya.